Let go and be it. When you begin to let go of who you thought you had to be as a woman or what you thought motherhood had to look like, and you begin to just be the expression of the Divine Mother, you begin to embody more of that. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 signs that you're on the path to becoming more embodied in motherhood. But first, let's grab a cup of tea. Before I dive straight into the video, if you're going through a spiritual awakening, feminine awakening, or you're on your conscious parenting journey, hit that subscribe button because it's my mission to share my message across to as many people as possible, and you don't want to miss out on any future videos. So with that being said, let's dive straight into the video. So the first sign that a woman embodies the divine expression of a mother is that she is firm but assertive. And this is where I'm talking about having the freedom to express your frustrations. You embody that authority and hold firm boundaries with your children and with your partner also. And when she embodies this, she stands with presence that is confident and with authority, and she doesn't let anyone push her over. And often we are told by the online parenting community that the ultimate goal is to be calm and to not shout or yell at your children. And this is not me saying shouting and yelling at your children is what we must do, but often we are told that any frustration, any anger and rage is not acceptable, and we must hold that frustration back, to be zen-like and just be calm all the time 24/7, and this is totally unrealistic. And as cycle breakers as well, when we do lose it with our children, we feel like we are continuing that cycle the same way our parents parented us, the same way we were raised. And the embodied mother lets go of this idea of that frustration and anger is not acceptable, because often we are told by society that anger is not acceptable. But we are all humans, and we have to teach our children that all emotions are acceptable because they're all human emotions, and that so they should be acceptable, and expressing rage and anger in a healthy way. Embodied mother lets go of all of that illusion and allows her frustration to be seen, expresses that frustration, that fiery passion that can come up, and hold that boundary. Me and my sister often tell each other that the dads are the playful ones, but sometimes the mum can be that, oh, assertive, like do as you're told kind of one. And that's not in a toxic way. That kind of comes across as a toxic way, but that's just for me to be able to relate and show you what I mean. The mum will be like, oh, but also you can get the other end where the dad's the really playful one and maybe the more assertive one, but the mum is the more nurturing one and the one that is more just mothering and gentle and nice, but the embodied mother knows her boundaries. So the second sign that she is fully embodied in motherhood is that she is attuned to her intuition and feels it in her body. So intuition, our mother's instinct, is that divine feminine energy moving through our bodies, and we can feel that. Often intuition, we feel it as like a gut instinct, and often mums tell me that, well, my instincts, my intuition, it doesn't come natural for me. This is true because we live in a modern world, and I'll take it back a bit. We used to live in tribes, didn't we, where we had a village all together. Even back just probably like 30 years ago, we were living more as a community, and so that meant all the women would be together and be surrounded by others, be surrounded by children 24/7. And that meant we were able to have more of this maternal instinct, this intuition flowing through us because we were surrounded by it more. All the feminine energy was moving between the women in the communities. So we had that shared intuition as well. And so it is there. It's just we live in a modern society where the mother is alone and isolated from lots of other children, lots of other mothers, and she's doing it all by herself. So she's like, it just doesn't come natural for me. I don't have mother's instincts, mother's intuition, but it is all there. When you feel that gut instinct with your child, that's when we feel it the most. When our children are unwell is when we feel that like instinct that something's not quite right. And I had this a lot when my son was newborn, though he was experiencing lots of symptoms to do like reflux and breathing issues, and I was like, something's not right, something is off. And there was just this a deep gut feeling in me that something wasn't right. And I don't care if I'm a first time mum, I believe something's wrong, because often they were telling me, you're just a word first time mum, there's nothing wrong. And eventually, when I kept pushing, he was diagnosed with obviously silent reflux and a floppy larynx. So that meant my mother's intuition was right. And when a woman is embodied in motherhood, that divine feminine expression, she is able to be so attuned to this. She feels all her intuition in her body, and she's able to make decisions based on that. So what might feel right for her children or herself, she's able to move in that direction. If something feels off, and her intuition, her mother's instincts is saying, no, that's not right for my child, there's something not quite right here, she'll pull back on that. And when you're more embodied in that, you don't care about other people's opinions. You make that decision because it feels right in your body. And this means she's able to move through motherhood more easily and make decisions in motherhood easily because she has that internal navigation system, her intuition, her compass that is sending kind of signals in a right direction, because she's able to feel that intuition, the feminine energy in her body, and know what's a good decision and what's a bad decision. The third sign that you're on your way to being a more embodied mama, we can say mama if we want, but she is responsive and protective, or rather protective and responsive. And I just want to clarify before I go on, I'm not saying other mothers and non-spiritual mothers are not protective, because we all are. But when we understand the feminine, we understand that wild woman as well, that protective wild woman. It's like the mama bear protecting her cubs in the wild, and she will do anything to protect them, and the lioness to protect her cubs from other predators or other male lions that are coming in to try and, you know, the way it works, they kill the cubs to mate again. She do anything to protect them and fight off. She becomes devoted to her child. She becomes the child's champion and stands up for the child and protects them and says, be's their voice. She becomes their advocate, and she stands up for them in times that she is needed and they ask for her support. So she's always there to be the guide, to be their champion. So when they need her, she is responding to their needs, especially when they're older and she needs to speak up for them, or when somebody crosses a boundary with your child and they're not able to speak up for themselves, and you have to be their authority, their voice, and say, that is not acceptable. They didn't like that. When we embody more of this, and with the assertiveness, the firmness with boundaries, they just go hand in hand. I can't really put my hands together, but they go hand in hand and support one another. So my fourth sign of an embodied mother is that she moves through motherhood slowly. And this is about getting rid of all these endless to-do lists. And this may be a bit more of a controversial subject, but when we let go of this idea that we have to do it all in motherhood to feel like we are a good mom, that we're doing enough, because that's what it's rooted in, is doing all of this to feel like we are enough, non-value, you're not contributing to any money in the households, particularly if you're a stay-at-home mum. That's just referencing a reference for stay-at-home mums. But we need to let go of all this false idealization around having to do everything, an endless to-do list. And I'm even still working on this. Sometimes I feel like I'm not well rested, I'm not finished, I'm not whole and complete if I don't do the washing, if I don't do this, if I don't do that. And it's ever playing on my mind, it's constantly going around. But when we forget about having to do extracurricular activities with our children, this and this group for our toddler every day, or at least 3 times a week, like, don't worry, they're not missing out on anything if you decide not to go to a group. When we get rid of a lot of that, we free up space in our minds and in our physical environments. It frees up time to be able to be more present for our children, do more fun activities with them in the home, or have that more space to be more mindful. Because when we are clogged up with all of this shit, this endless to-do list, we feel more pressure, we feel more irritable, there's always something playing on our minds, so we're going to be more snappy towards our child, aren't we? We're going to have less patience because we feel like we've got this done, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, oh my god, I just wish they would play by themselves so I could just get on with all this and this and this and this. It's like, whoa, come back into presence and forget all of that, because the embodied mother doesn't care that she has to get everything done, because that's not what motherhood's meant to be like. And this may trigger you because a lot of people and mothers will think like, well, it's hard, we've just got to do it all, the mums are always the ones doing everything, if I don't do it nobody else will do it, and all that. So if you are feeling triggered by this, or your sense of shame comes up, you trigger shame because you feel like you feel shame that you can't enjoy motherhood, you can't be slow. Do you know what I mean? Because you are doing it all, you can't enjoy motherhood, you're hating it because there's all these things doing and you hate that feeling of constant everything doing it. I invite you just to sit with it, feel where it lands in your body, this trigger, and just ask yourself, why is it that you are struggling with not to do everything? Because there's so many reasons why it could be. So my fifth and final one may trigger you as well, but it is vital. It's she puts her needs first. We are often told that that's selfish, but you always hear the phrase, this is quite referenced quite a lot, but I'm going to use it again, and it's that when you're going down an air, when the cabin pressure drops, you've got to put your mask on first before you put your child's on first, because you cannot help your child if you are struggling to breathe or whatever it is when the bed. We're often told self-care is selfish. Putting our child's needs behind us is kind of viewed as selfish. And this is not to say like that physical, emotional, all of those things don't matter and shouldn't come first, because you are going to feed your kid, you are going to clothe your kid, but it's the things like your emotional, physical, spiritual well-being must come first. You have to nourish yourself, mind, body and soul, to feel, to be the best embodied version of yourself. Because when we can't, when our cup is empty, we are physically drained. We end up being in survival mode, which then the brain cannot make this rational decisions. It cannot do anything when it's in survival mode. And often we get triggered. I find in the online world with moms and the motherhood things, get triggered by the word self-care. So it's because we feel like, oh, it's an extra thing to think about. I can't be bothered. I don't have time. And it's ultimately just, you feel like you don't deserve it, like you're not worth it. And we have to start prioritizing this time, because the embodied mother, when she embodies divine expression, she is able to fill her cup up. So then she is able to be the most embodied. And just do it for yourself. You don't need to have self-care and fill up your cup just to pour into somebody else's cup. Do it for yourself because you want to. And an example of this could be even having a meal together at the table and having a boundary that you won't get up and meet everybody else's needs, that you finish your meal hot, or whatever it is. You may be having a salad, but you have that boundary and say, no, I'm putting my needs first. I want a hot meal, which I've done that before because I don't like having cold food. I'm not really somebody that enjoys cold food, but that's what I'm talking about here. Putting your needs first so you're nourished. And when your needs met, you're less resentful, you're more calm, and you're just more regulated. I believe an embodiment is a reclamation to motherhood, and we can reclaim our power and really embody what it means to be a divine mother and embody our own values. And if you would like to start reclaiming your power, putting your needs first, and nourish that your mind, body and soul, I have a free self-care guide that is in the description box below or the pinned comment. This guide gives you ideas for self-care, talks about worthiness, talks about the masculine and the feminine energies, and it comes with a weekly bonus schedule for you to schedule in that self-care time, so there's no excuse about time. So click the link and download that now. But also watch this video because it talks about feminine energy in motherhood and how you can begin to be more balanced in motherhood. Or you can go and watch this video, which talks all about authentic in motherhood and honoring that feminine. I will see you on the next video. Much love.